Welcome to VRDNation. As a lot of you know that this channel is dedicated for stock market investing and trading, and through this channel we explain complex stock market concepts in a very easy to understand way that anyone with any kind of background can easily understand investing and trading and hopefully make some money. But it is one thing to talk about concepts like P/E ratio, earnings per share, or some fundamental or technical analysis, but it is completely different to address a topic which has a huge impact on our life. And in this video, I want to address one such topic, and the topic is transitioning into a full-time career of trading. So if you are someone who is considering the possibility of leaving your job and becoming a full-time trader, you have to listen to this video very, very carefully. And why do you have to listen to me? What do I have to offer to you? Well, the reason that you have to listen to me is because I have made a successful transition from my corporate life into being a full-time investor and trader. So I was in US for about 10 years and I was working with a multinational company, a Fortune 10 company, working in their headquarters, made a very good salary. I was very happy there. But at some point in my life, I decided that this is not something that I want to do for the rest of my life. And I made a conscious decision to transition from the corporate life into the life of a full-time trader. But that was not the time that I decided to start to trade. I mean, I've been trading for the last 16 years. But that was the time I decided that I want to become a full-time trader. This is something that I want to do for the rest of my life. And it's been almost 5 years and it almost feels like it started yesterday. And during this transition, I made some good decisions, I made some bad decisions, I had a lot of learning, and that is something that I want to share with you. Now, the way I want to do this is I want to make two videos. In this video, I will share with you my experience of being a full-time trader, what are the pros and cons of being a full-time trader, what is the lifestyle of a trader. And in the next video, I want to explain a 10-step roadmap of how to become a full-time trader. So you have to watch both this video very carefully, and first one specially, this one specially, because this is where you will get a full balanced perspective of being a full-time trader. And in the next one, of course, you will get the roadmap. So I want to first start by saying that it is possible to become a full-time trader and make a living with it. So if you have any doubt in your mind that whether it's possible or not, the answer is yes, it is possible. Yes, it can be done. So with that said, let me talk about the pros and cons of being a full-time trader. Let's start with the pros. So the first advantage of being a full-time trader is that you get a lot of time to focus on trading. Right, so a lot of people that I observe that they have the knack for trading, they have a knack for understanding the market the right way, but because they are spending a disproportionate amount of time on their jobs. I mean, just take a look at your day, right? By the time you get ready and then you go to office and then you come back, and even after coming back, sometimes you have to take calls, you have to finish your deliverables. How much time is actually available to do anything else, right? Even after coming back, you have to spend time with your family, with your kids. So meaningfully, if you have to devote any time for trading, you hardly get half an hour or 1 hour. Now compare that to the scenario where you are a full-time trader. Now the whole day is yours. You plan your whole day, you can dedicate your time for trading, and that becomes a huge factor for success in trading. And that is also the advantage number 2, is that the probability of your success in trading will become very high when you are trading full time. Why? Because all your energy, all your focus, all your attention, all your motivation is directed and focused on one thing and one thing only, that is trading. Imagine in that situation where everything is focused on one thing, then of course, I mean, if you focus all your energy, all your attention towards one thing, you are much more likely to succeed than just doing it like part-time or just half an hour in a day. And the other aspect is that now that you are in front of the market all day long, you will see many more opportunities which you were missing when you were in a job. So you will get to see many more trading opportunities, you will get to see better entries, you will be able to manage your risk in a more structured, in a more prompt way than what you were doing when you were in a full-time job. So the probability of your success goes up very high when you are trading full-time. Now the third advantage of being a full-time trader, it's a very interesting advantage, is that trading offers non-linear income. Now what does it mean? Well, think about your job. So you get paid for the time that you're spending with your employer. So if you go for 10 days, you get paid for 10 days. If you're going for 20 days, you get paid for 20 days. So the amount of money that you're making in your job, more or less, depends on the time that you're spending with your employer at your job. Whereas in trading, it's completely skill dependent. So imagine a doctor, right? So when a doctor becomes a doctor for the first time, he or she is not making a lot of money. For the first couple of years, they will be doing internship in some hospital. They will be getting a very, very low wage. But what they're gaining is they're gaining experience. And after 3 years, after 5 years, after 10 years, the same doctor, when they have acquired the knowledge, the experience that they need to excel, they will make more in 1 month than they had made in several years. So the exact same logic goes for trading as well. So in trading, initially you don't earn a lot because you're learning, but once you master the skill, you will make more money in a few months than you were making in over a year. And that is exactly what happened to me. And this is something, which is a little bit more, sensitive for me as well, because when I was in US, I was making good amount of money. I was living in LA, the life was good. And when I transitioned from LA to India, and I had a feeling that maybe I'm taking a downgrade in my lifestyle. But the way it worked out, and the way it worked out very well, is that in past couple of years, I have made more money and I have saved more money in 3 or 4 months than I was making in this corporate job in US for the whole year. That is the power of trading. That is the power of full-time trading, that if you learn this skill the right way, the potential is immense. You can make much more money than you could ever make in any job. Now the fourth advantage, which is the reason I made the decision of becoming a full-time trader, is the independence. So now you are your own boss. Nobody tells you what to do, when to do, and how to do it. Now you decide what to do with your day, you decide what to do with your whole week, you decide what you want to do with your month and the year. So being a full-time trader means being independent, having that freedom that nobody is breathing down your neck to get a project done, right? So you know what you want to do and you will do it on your own. So you be your own boss and you decide what to do with your life. But on the other hand, you also have to remember that with great powers come great responsibilities. So if now that you are your own boss, you have to do things in such a way that you are making the most of your time. So I will discuss a little bit more about that later in this video. But this is one of the biggest advantages of being a full-time trader, is that you are free. You are independent. You are out of this rat race that is the corporate world. Another big advantage that I personally had is that I get a lot of time to spend with my family. So if you have kids, you can spend more time with their studies, with their extracurriculars. You can go out on long vacations. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need your boss to say that, okay, you can go. So you can take long vacations. You can plan anything that you want. And you can even go out for long walks for that matter. You don't have to worry what's going to happen tomorrow, right? So that freedom of living your life, having the balance between enjoying the life and making money, that is possible. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people decide to become full-time traders, because they get to spend more time with their family and enjoy that part of their life. And last but not the least is that by trading, and that is something especially for me, I am doing something that I love. Right? I have had different jobs. I mean, I had a 15 years of corporate experience. I started as a consultant, then I moved on to management and in leadership positions. But there is nothing that I can say I enjoy doing day in and day out, than trading. Every day I look forward to next day of trading. I may not necessarily be trading, but just being in front of the market, just watching the stocks, just analyzing the stocks, just having that power to make money at my own will, that gives me the satisfaction that what I'm doing, I'm really enjoying. So I don't know how much of a big deal is for you guys, but for me it was a very big deal when I decided to become a full-time trader. That I'm doing something that I love. I don't have to do something which I don't want to do, right? I'm not doing something just because I want to earn a salary. I'm doing something I love, and that to me is a huge advantage of being a full-time trader. So those are all the good things of being a trader. Let's talk about the disadvantage, the cons of becoming a full-time trader. The first biggest disadvantage I would say of being a full-time trader is the unstable income. So remember, in the advantages I talked about the non-linear income. Well, non-linear income on the one hand can say that okay, within a couple of months you can make more money than you would make in a year in a stable job. But what that also means is that there will be a period where you will not be making a lot of money. So I correlate the trader's life very much to the life of a hunter. So imagine a hunter, right? In the olden times, in the Stone Age, a hunter goes out for hunting. Can you ask that hunter that, can you guarantee that you're going to get something for us to eat? No, the hunter doesn't know, right? But it's a hunter's job every day to go out and look for food. Some days the hunter can get a big meal. Some days the hunter will get even injured, right? If the hunter was not able to hunt the animal. It's the similar kind of a life of a trader. So when I go into the market every day, I don't know how much I'm going to make. People ask me, can I make 1,000 rupees per day or 10,000 rupees per day or 50,000 rupees per day? And I say, I don't know. I don't know. It's my job to go into the market and look for opportunities. But what will I eventually get is not up to me. So what happens is, especially when you are starting to trade in the beginning phase of your career, you will see that you're putting a lot of time, but you're not getting a lot of return. So the same example of being a doctor, in the initial phase when you're learning a skill, you don't actually make a lot of money. So what happens is, a lot of people who when transition into becoming a full-time trader, they find it very, very hard to manage their expenses. So this is one of the disadvantages of being a full-time trader if you're not doing it properly, is that if you're depending on the income from trading to take care of your EMIs or your kids' school fees or your monthly expenses or your rent, then you will have a very, very tough time managing this, because you cannot depend. You don't know how much you're going to make in a certain month, because nobody can tell you that. There is no way of knowing how much you're going to make in a certain month. So this instability in the income is definitely a disadvantage, especially for those people who do not transition into full-time trading without having a plan. The second disadvantage, which I think is more in the case of Indian context, is the family pressure. Now, trading, stock market in general doesn't really have a very good reputation when it comes to our parents and grandparents and our family in general. But within stock market, trading especially has a very bad reputation. So when you say to your parents, when you say to your family and friends that you want to become a full-time trader, it almost feels like in their mind that you are becoming a gambler. And probably it is because of this several decades and decades of this mindset that Indians have, that stock market is a big casino and it's just gambling, it's just speculation, no one really makes money here. So it's very difficult to convince your parents, it's very difficult to convince your spouse, your family that this is a valid career. So that uncertainty of not knowing how much you're going to make clearly makes people nervous, especially those who are financially dependent on you. So they may not necessarily say that they are nervous about it. They may have their own apprehension. They may be very polite in saying this, but you have to understand that implicitly or explicitly you will be under tremendous psychological pressure because of the family, and it is a legitimate thing that you have to acknowledge, and ignoring it is not going to help, and opposing it is not going to help. You have to acknowledge it, and you have to make sure that you have a plan that can take care of their considerations and their issues. Now in my case, what happened was, I come from a South Indian family, and South Indian family especially are a little bit more conservative, and trading definitely is not considered as a viable career option. So a lot of people, I had a lot of skepticism from my family, from my relatives. In fact, I had to also face a lot of mockery in the initial part of my transition that you left a good paying job in the US and now you're doing this. Now they don't do it anymore because success speaks for itself. But initially I had to deal with all this, and it's not easy. It's not easy to listen to this and go back and do what you're doing because you really want to do this. And but that is something that is part and parcel of this transition, especially in India. So you have to be ready for that. The other disadvantage or con, you might want to call it, is isolation. Now this is something which I don't see a lot of people talking about this, but this is the reality of becoming a full-time trader, is that you basically become cut off from the rest of the world. Now, when I was in my corporate job, I used to have my calendar filled from 9 o'clock up until 5 o'clock in the evening. Back to back, I used to have meetings, and it was really hard even to grab a lunch during these meetings. And coming from that kind of a background, I now switched to a time frame where I'm not interacting with anyone. So initially it felt good that look, all my day is free for me and I can do whatever I want. But what I realized was that what I was doing in my corporate job was that even though I was very, very busy, I was also interacting with a lot of people. So that interaction with other humans, interaction and gaining new ideas, collaboration, and that social interaction, gives you a lot of comfort. But when you are a full-time trader, you're basically cut off from the rest of the world. So you have to make conscious effort to go out and connect with other people because you don't really have a colleague. When you are a trader, you are on your own. So that isolation part is something which you have to deal with. And the way I dealt with isolation is basically doing this. This is my community, this is my family. By talking to you guys, by having a YouTube channel, by the way of communicating and having feedback from my audience, I interact, and this is my social life now. But if you are an extrovert, if you like to go out, if you like to meet people, then probably you are going to have a tough time transitioning into becoming a full-time trader because there is absolutely no one here. It's you and the market. That's it. You and the market. There is nobody, absolutely nobody. I mean, there are other forums and things like that, but for all practical intents and purposes, it's going to be you and your market. So be ready for that if you want to become a full-time trader. Be ready for that isolation. It may feel a little bit weird, but if you're an introvert, you probably will be easily transitioning into this thing. But if you're an extrovert, then you have to have a plan for this, or maybe you should do something outside of your trading life so that you can fulfill that gap of not having the social interaction with other people. And going along with the topic of isolation, the other disadvantage that I see in becoming a full-time trader is that there are a lot of psychological issues that you will start noticing which you did not have earlier in your corporate life. The way a trader works, when you are trading day in and day out and you are seeing profits, you are seeing losses, they take a toll on you, especially if you are not ready for that. So what happens is that in a lot of people, it creates psychological issues like they go into depression, right? So this isolation, this family pressure and losses, sometimes they create depression. Sometimes they also create desperation. So out of desperation, sometimes people take some desperate trades, then they lose eventually more money. So you have to be ready to have a strong mind when you want to become a full-time trader, because be ready for this environment which is high pressure and there is no pressure wall. There is nothing that will relieve your pressure. Right? So every day it's just going into this high pressure cooker, and then again you have to perform at your best. So if you don't have a strong mind, if you are not mentally strong, then you will succumb to some very, very big problems psychologically speaking, and that is something that you have to be ready for that. One other disadvantage for a lot of you will be that if you are working in a corporate job, in terms of your health insurance, your company covers for your health insurance and for your kids and your spouse as well. But when you leave your job, all that health insurance coverage is gone. And not only the health insurance coverage is gone, a lot of times what happens is that when you take an insurance individually, you are not covered with all the same benefits that you would have from a corporate plan. So this is something that you have to kind of deal with, you have to plan for. And if your spouse is working, you might want to go on his or her insurance plan so that it covers from her standpoint or his standpoint, but that is something that you have to keep in mind, that the health insurance will no longer be covered. So that benefit that you had in your stable job is no longer going to be there. And last but not the least, it's a very hard thing to say, but it is true, that in case the transition into full-time trading doesn't work out and you have to go back into your previous job or into your previous industry, explaining the gap sometimes can be very, very hard. And even the mental pressure and the embarrassment that we feel that we tried but we failed. So having that feeling of being a failure from doing something which didn't pan out and going back and now asking for a job, and you may not be getting the same kind of salary, the same position that you had earlier, and you see people judging you that you tried something which you failed and kind of mocking you. A lot of it might be psychological, may not really be real, but it is going to play out in your head like that, right? So be prepared for that scenario as well, that in case if you ever have to go back to your previous job, then you have to explain your gap and you have to be prepared for that as well. So guys, this was very intense session. I know it was very, very intense, but I wanted to share this with you because this is something which I have gone through and I have made a lot of mistakes. I have learned a lot of things, and I hope that whatever I have shared with you will help you get a good perspective of what it means to become a full-time trader. This was a very intense video, but in the second video I will keep it very simple, that after listening to this whole video, if you still want to become a full-time trader, I will share with you a 10-step plan, a 10-step system that if you follow, then the probability of your success in becoming a full-time trader will be very, very high. Right? So I want more traders coming into this Indian trading community, and I want to do my bit for that. But at least I hope in this video you learned something, and look forward for the next video, and hopefully I can make your life a little bit easier by giving you some systematic plan that will help you in your transition.